The chamber was a symphony of alien murmurs and flickering holograms, the air thick with the cloying scents of 100 different species. I slumped in my seat, my tail twitching with barely restrained irritation as another induction ceremony dragged on. These proceedings were always the same. Some fragile, soft-skinned species would step forward to boast about their peaceful evolution, their safe little world, their remarkable intellectual achievements as if basic cognition was something to celebrate. My claws scraped against the armrests as I resisted the urge to groan aloud. Across the aisle, that infuriating JYTH combined delegate Diri caught my eye, her feathered crest ruffling in amusement. "Pay attention, Axion," she chirped in that grating avian voice of hers. "This one might surprise you." I snorted, a puff of warm air escaping my nostrils. Doubtful. How many of their so-called wars this time? 10? 100? She merely clicked her beak in that knowing way I'd come to despise over the decades. The central hologram flared to life, revealing the newest delegate, a human called John Smith. At first glance, he seemed as unimpressive as all the others. Pale skin, patchy fur on his head, no visible claws or natural armor. But then I noticed his stance, the way his muscles tensed beneath that ridiculous suit, the subtle adjustments he made to compensate for the station's weak gravity. This creature moved like a predator forced into a diplomat's clothing. My interest, against all odds, began to stir. When he spoke, his voice carried an edge I hadn't heard in this chamber for centuries. "Earth," he began, "is a death world dressed up as paradise." My spine stiffened. The hologram shifted to display their homeworld, a blue-green sphere wreathed in violent storms, its surface scarred with the marks of countless disasters. 70% of our surface is water, Smith continued, and 97% of that would kill you if you drank it. The hologram zoomed in on their continents, showing deserts that could boil flesh by day and freeze blood by night, jungles teeming with venomous life, mountain ranges that tore at the sky like broken teeth. Our ancestors didn't evolve in some gentle cradle. They survived by being more stubborn than the land trying to kill them. Then came the hunting footage, primitive humans chasing down prey not with speed, but with terrifying endurance, running beasts to exhaustion in the scorching heat. My claws flexed unconsciously. It was a tactic my own ancestors had used in the sulfur wastes of Vara Prime. For the first time in decades, I found myself sitting upright, my full attention locked on the presentation. Smith wasn't done. "And when we turned on each other," he said, his voice dropping to something dangerous, "we became artists of destruction." The hologram erupted into scenes of human warfare through the ages, steel-clad armies clashing on blood-soaked fields, cities reduced to smoldering ruins, skies black with the ashes of civilizations. Then came the crown jewel of their brutality, the blinding flash of atomic fire, the mushroom clouds that heralded a new age of annihilation. The other delegates recoiled, their delicate sensibilities offended by such naked violence. Some made choked, horrified sounds. I couldn't help it. I laughed, a deep, rolling growl that shook my massive frame. Finally, after centuries of enduring these insipid ceremonies, here was a species that understood the fundamental truth of existence, that life was struggle, and only the strong endured. Diri's smug expression told me she'd expected this reaction. Smith, to his credit, met my gaze across the chamber without flinching. In that moment, I felt something I hadn't experienced since my first blood duel, the electric thrill of recognizing a worthy counterpart. The rest of his presentation passed in a blur of cultural details and technological achievements, but my mind was already racing with possibilities. Their military history alone suggested a kindred spirit my people hadn't encountered since. Well, never, if I was being honest. The so-called warrior cultures in the Republic were pale imitations, their battle honors earned in skirmishes that wouldn't qualify as training exercises among my kin. But these humans, they had the fire. After the ceremony, the reception hall buzzed with nervous energy. Most delegates gave Smith a wide berth, clustering in their usual cliques and shooting uneasy glances at the human delegation. I cut through them like a warship through civilian traffic, my bulk sending smaller species scrambling out of my path. Smith stood near the refreshments, sipping something clear and carbonated. He tensed as I approached, good instincts, but held his ground. "John Smith," I rumbled, extending my hand palm down in the traditional VAR challenge greeting. The surrounding delegates gasped. "Let them." Smith hesitated only a moment before gripping my wrist, his fingers barely spanning half its width. His grip was firm, though, no trembling, no attempt to withdraw. "Retired soldier, eh?" I said, releasing him. His pulse jumped in his throat, but his voice stayed steady. "Something like that." "Not fear. Excitement." I felt my lips pull back in a grin that showed entirely too many teeth. We ended up in one of the station's quieter lounges, a bottle of VAR whiskey between us, the good stuff, distilled from volcanic lichen and strong enough to melt durasteel. Smith coughed after his first sip, his face flushing that fascinating pink color humans turned when overwhelmed, but he didn't back down. By the third glass, we were trading war stories. His tales of desert ambushes and urban combat were refreshingly brutal. No sanitized Republic versions here. He spoke of blood in the sand, of friends lost to sniper fire, of the terrible calculus of civilian casualties. In return, I told him of the siege of Carax, where my clan held the sulfur vents against 3 rival houses for 60 days without relief. Somewhere around the 5th glass, the conversation turned to tactics. Smith's insights into asymmetric warfare were shockingly sophisticated for a species so new to interstellar politics. "You think like a VAR," I told him, slamming my glass down hard enough to crack the table. He grinned that sharp, human grin. "Coming from you, I'll take that as a compliment." The other patrons had long since fled, leaving us to our increasingly loud debate about orbital drop tactics versus traditional siege warfare. When station security finally intervened, after that regrettable incident involving the Galaxian ambassador's hover podium and a poorly aimed toast, we'd already laid the groundwork for something revolutionary. Cultural exchanges. Military liaisons. Mutual defense protocols. The bureaucrats would panic, of course. The high clans would bluster and posture. But as I clasped forearms with Smith one last time before being dragged away, I knew with absolute certainty that the galaxy's balance of power had just shifted. Later, in my quarters, nursing what humans called a hangover, a concept my people rarely experienced, I reviewed the recording of Smith's presentation. There, in the unguarded moments when he thought the camera wasn't on him, I saw it, the same fire that burned in my own veins, the same ruthless calculus behind his eyes. These humans played at being civilized, but their teeth were still sharp. My people had been alone among the stars for too long. No more. As I prepared my report for the Emperor, a single thought circled in my mind like a warship in holding pattern: the galaxy wouldn't know what hit it.